Last Tuesday, a guy rolled into my shop with a 2015 Silverado. 72,000 miles on it. He had done every oil change exactly when the dealer told him to, followed the maintenance schedule like it was the Bible, but his engine was ticking like a typewriter. Lifters had collapsed. The dealer tried to blame him for neglect. That is when I pulled out his service records and showed him the 3 maintenance items Chevrolet does not put in the owner's manual, the ones that would have saved his engine. Today I am sharing the real Chevy maintenance schedule. Not the one designed to get you past warranty, but the one that gets you to 300,000 miles. We will cover the hidden screen that triggers false oil pressure warnings, the transmission fluid lie that costs $4,000, and a bonus trick at the end that saves your parking pal. Let's get into it. Habit number 1, clean the oil pressure sensor screen every oil change. Here is something 90% of Chevy owners do not know exists. On every Silverado and Sierra from 2007 or newer, with the 5.3 liter or 6.2 liter engine, there is a tiny screen hiding directly beneath your oil pressure sensor. It is about the size of a dime, and it sits in the oil galley that feeds your valve lifter oil manifold. When it clogs with sludge, your dash reads 0 oil pressure, even though you have plenty. I know what you are thinking. My oil pressure gauge has been fine for years. Why would I need to clean some screen I have never heard of? Here is what the manual does not tell you. That screen protects your VLOM solenoids from debris. But when you follow Chevy's extended oil change intervals, that screen clogs up fast. Therefore, you either get false low pressure warnings that make you panic on the highway, or worse, actual low pressure at the lifters because oil cannot flow through properly. I had a customer last month who panic pulled over on the highway because his gauge dropped to 0. The engine sounded perfect though, no ticking, no knocking. We unscrewed the oil pressure sensor, pulled out that little screen with a pick, and it was packed solid with black gunk. It looked like coffee grounds. We cleaned it, reinstalled everything, and the gauge read 40 pounds. 5-minute fix. The solution. Every time you change your oil, unscrew that sensor on top of the engine at the back of the valve cover. Pull the screen out with a small pick or dental tool, spray it clean with brake cleaner, blow it out with compressed air, and reinstall. It takes 5 minutes, costs nothing, and prevents the panic of thinking your engine is about to seize. Habit number 2, service your 8-speed transmission fluid at 45,000 miles, not lifetime. Let me be straight with you. There is no such thing as lifetime transmission fluid. I do not care what GM's marketing department says. Your dealership will tell you it is filled for life. That is a lie. Chevy extends those intervals to make ownership costs look attractive on paper. Lower maintenance frequency means cheaper cost of ownership in those comparison charts. But they are not the ones paying for your $4,000 torque converter replacement when the shutter starts. Here is the truth. The torque converter clutch in these 8-speed transmissions engages and disengages constantly to save fuel. That creates friction, which creates heat, which breaks down the fluid. The fluid starts holding microscopic metal particles from the clutch material, and over time that contaminated fluid causes the famous Chevy shudder. It feels like you are driving over rumble strips at 40 to 50 miles per hour. Once that shudder starts, you are looking at a torque converter replacement, $4,000 minimum. But here is the critical part about the fix. You have to use Mobil 1 LV ATF HP fluid, not generic Dexron 6, not the cheap stuff. Mobil 1 LV ATF HP only. That is what the GM Technical Service Bulletin specifies. I have seen trucks where the shop used the wrong fluid and the shudder came back in 6 months. Change it at 45,000 miles, then every 30,000 miles after that if you tow or haul heavy. Your transmission will thank you by not leaving you stranded with a $12,000 rebuild bill. Habit number 3, prevent a FM lifter failure with more than just oil changes. Everyone knows the active fuel management system on 2007 to 2021. Silverado's has lifter problems. Cylinders 1, 4, 6, and 7 can collapse, bend, push rods, and score camshafts. Your service advisor will tell you, just change the oil more often and you will be fine. But that is only part of the story. Inside your engine is a component called the valve lifter oil manifold, abbreviated VLOM. It is a rectangular aluminum block that controls oil flow to the AFM lifters. Inside that VLOM are tiny screens, and when those screens clog, oil pressure to those 4 cylinders drops. Therefore, the lifters do not pump up properly and they collapse. Here is what I tell customers. First, use only 0W20 Dexos oil. I do not care if you prefer 5W30. I do not care if your buddy says 10W30 works fine. 0W20. The AFM system needs that thinner oil to function correctly. Second, change oil every 5,000 miles, not 7,500 like the sticker says, not 10,000 like the manual claims, 5,000. Third, at 100,000 miles, have your oil pump checked because the pumps in these engines weaken over time, and weak oil pressure accelerates lifter failure. I opened up a 2016 Silverado last month with the 5.3. The owner did everything right. Oil was changed every 5,000 miles, and the correct fluid was used. But at 120,000 miles, the oil pump was only making 25 pounds of pressure at idle when it should have been making 40 pounds. That weak pressure starved the lifters. 3 of them had collapsed. We replaced the oil pump, the lifters, and the camshaft. $8,500. It could have been caught early with a simple manual oil pressure test. Quick thing, if you do not want to miss next week's video where I show you the 5 warning signs your Chevy transmission is about to fail, hit subscribe. 90% of you watching are not subscribed, and these tips could save you thousands. Habit number 4, inspect and touch up your frame wax coating twice a year. If you own a 2007 to 2014 Silverado or Sierra, your frame came from the factory with a black wax coating. Chevy says it is designed to protect against rust for the life of the vehicle, but I am looking at rotted frames every single week, and that coating is not protecting anything. Here is what really happens. The coating peels off. I have seen 5-year-old trucks where 50% of the coating has flaked away, exposing bare steel. And in the salt belt, that rust moves fast. General Motors issued a technical bulletin to dealers about this problem. They are just hoping you do not find out until your warranty expires. Here is what you need to do. Twice a year, get under your truck with a flashlight and look at the frame rails, the cross members, the mounting points. If you see black coating peeling off in sheets or bare gray metal showing through, you have a problem. Wire brush off any loose coating. Hit the bare metal with rust converter, then spray the area with either Daubert frame wax or fluid film. Daubert frame wax matches the factory coating. It is a spray-on wax that dries matte black. Fluid film is a lanolin-based oil that creeps into seams and prevents moisture from reaching the metal. Both work, and both are cheap compared to a $15,000 frame replacement. I had a customer with a 2011 Silverado, garage kept, only 60,000 miles, looked showroom new on top. But underneath, the frame was rotting. The crossmember behind the cab had holes you could stick your thumb through, all because the factory wax had peeled off at 30,000 miles and he never checked. We could not save it. The truck went to the scrapyard. Do not let that be you. Habit number 5, service your Evap canister vent valve and stop topping off your tank. Here is a part nobody has heard of, the evaporative emissions canister vent valve. It is a little solenoid mounted near your fuel tank that controls airflow to the charcoal canister. When it fails, you get check engine lights for evap leaks, a rough idle, even hard starting. Your shop will try to sell you a gas cap first to fix that code. Do not waste your $80. It is almost never the gas cap. The real problem is dirt and fuel contamination. The vent valve has a foam filter, and over time dust clogs the filter. But if you top off your tank after the pump clicks, you are forcing liquid fuel into the evap system. That fuel soaks the charcoal canister, ruins the vent valve, and creates a mess that costs $350 to fix. I replaced 3 of these last week alone. All three customers had the same story, a check engine light with code P0442 and rough running at idle. We pulled the vent valve and it was soaked in gasoline. The charcoal canister was saturated. We had to replace both parts because they had been topping off their tanks for years. The vent valve itself costs about $80 and takes 15 minutes to replace. But if you catch it early, you can sometimes clean the filter and save the valve. Check it every 30,000 miles. And for the love of everything, stop topping off your tank. That extra half gallon of gas is costing you hundreds in Evap repairs. Habit number 6. Flush coolant every 50,000 miles if you have direct injection. If you have a 2014 or newer Silverado with the 2.7 turbo, the 5.3, or the 6.2, this matters more than you think. Your manual says flush coolant at 150,000 miles. But I have never seen Dexcool last that long without turning acidic and eating your system from the inside. Here is the truth. Direct injection engines do not wash fuel over the intake valves like older port injection engines did. That means carbon builds up on the valves. And when your coolant breaks down and gets acidic, it accelerates that carbon buildup by allowing more blow-by past the rings. I have scoped intake valves on 5.3 engines at 80,000 miles with original coolant. They were caked with black carbon deposits that looked like burnt coal. That carbon restricts airflow, causes rough idle, and kills fuel economy. The only fix is walnut blasting the valves. It costs $2,500. The simple prevention: flush your coolant every 50,000 miles. Use Dexcool, the orange stuff General Motors specifies. Do not mix it with green coolant. Do not use universal coolant, Dexcool only. When you flush it, make sure you are getting the old coolant out of the block, not just the radiator. A proper flush includes pulling the lower radiator hose and draining from multiple points. Fresh coolant keeps your cooling system from corroding, prevents carbon buildup, and stops head gasket failures. It is a $100 service that prevents thousands in repairs. Habit number 7, clean battery terminals every 3 months. This one sounds basic, but it will save you from a $900 mistake. Corroded battery terminals are the #1 cause of no-start complaints I see. The tech will quote you a starter replacement for $900. Stop. Check your battery terminals first. They make way more money replacing starters than cleaning corrosion. I had a lady last week with a 2018 Silverado that would not start. She had already paid for a tow. The mechanic at the first shop told her she needed a new starter, which would cost $900. She brought it to me for a second opinion. I popped the hood and the battery terminals were caked with white and green corrosion, ½ an inch thick. I pulled the cables, cleaned the terminals with a wire brush and baking soda, reinstalled everything, and the truck fired right up. Here is the prevention. Every 3 months, pop the hood and look at your battery terminals. If you see any white fuzz, any green crust, any corrosion at all, clean it. Mix baking soda and water into a paste. Disconnect the negative cable first, then the positive. Scrub the terminals and the cable ends with a wire brush. Rinse with water, dry completely, reinstall the cables, positive first, then negative. Spray the terminals with dielectric grease or battery terminal protector. That stops corrosion cold. $5 fix, 10 minutes of your time, and it saves you from a tow bill and a misdiagnosis. Before we wrap up, here's a bonus tip. Engage your parking brake before you shift into park. Your parking gear is not actually a brake, it is a little metal pawl, essentially a finger that locks into a notch on the transmission. The service writer does not even know what a parking pawl is. Trust me on this one. Use the brake or pay for the transmission work later. When you park on a hill and shift to park without the parking brake, that tiny pawl is holding your entire truck in place. 5,000 pounds of truck sitting on a piece of metal the size of your thumb. Over time, that pawl wears out. It cracks, it breaks, and when it breaks, your truck rolls away. I have replaced parking pals on trucks with only 70,000 miles because owners never use the parking brake. The repair requires pulling the transmission $2,800. The fix is simple. Pull up, set the parking brake, then shift to park. The parking brake holds the truck, and the PAL just keeps the transmission from spinning. Do it every time. Uphill, downhill, flat ground, it does not matter. Your parking PAL will last the life of the truck. Now that you know the real Chevy maintenance schedule, there is one more hidden killer we need to talk about. In the next video, I will show you the 5 warning signs your transmission is about to fail. Catch them early, and you will save $4,000. Don't miss it.